All right, everyone, it's Wednesday. This is the morning briefing from the Celtic Way. Hello, guys. How are we? It's kind of quiet, isn't it? Kind of nice and quiet, or not nice and quiet. What do you think, Tony?
Too quiet. Too quiet yesterday. There's not a lot happening in the world of Celtic yesterday, but sometimes that's a good thing. Celtic have a rare week to prepare for a football match, don't they? Got like 6 days they had to
Yeah.
prepare. So, we're midway through that now, but, it does seem like a long stretch, doesn't it? It's a long 6 day stretch, but yeah, but they'll get there. But yeah, it's just a bit quiet, too quiet for my liking, but I'm sure there'll be some rumblings soon enough. There always is.
Sorry, I just realised I had my microphone out there, and I'm not even using that microphone, so it was just sitting there like an ornament. Hello, Ryan. How are you?
Yeah, all good. I'm quite enjoying this little break with Celtic because it's been pretty full on since the international break. A game every 3-4 days, so you enjoy the free week and just looking at the players that are potentially out with injuries at the moment or recuperating and coming back, such as St Johnstone and Cameron Carter-Vickers. Not having that game in midweek can only help and boost their situations by not playing and recovering and recuperating. So yeah, no complaints from me on this side. It's going to get busy all over again. You get St Johnstone and Borussia Dortmund and Ross County, 3 tough away games on the trot. That's regardless of who you're playing against. And I know Borussia Dortmund's 5 or 6 levels up from those teams that Celtic could be playing domestically, but are still tough away games, and they're games out with Celtic Park. So you've got to go and do the business and make sure that your record still remains intact after those ones. But it's an interesting one. The one at the weekend with St Johnstone, no manager yet. There's been talk about who their manager could potentially be, potentially a bit of a reunion on the cards. In terms of who Celtic might be facing, again, that would be quite interesting if that was the case. But yeah, it's McDermott Park. It's going to be a good crowd that Celtic bring to that game, and hopefully Celtic can get the business done. But right now, it's the calm before the impending storm.
Yeah, it's 3 big away games. I was kind of thinking that earlier that take Arne Engels, for example, and it feels like he's been at the club for ages. He's only played 3 matches. But he's not yet played a match away from Celtic Park. He's not sampled any of these other Scottish grounds. So I was thinking that on earlier today, that on Saturday it's going to be interesting to see how he and a few others get on this Saturday. It's a bit of a different weekend kickoff, Tony. 'Cause it's a 5:45 kickoff, so it's going to be a long day before the game.
Yes, it is a long day. Kind of days, nearly done, and you're going to start a football match. To be fair, but yeah, listen, the Celtic fans will travel up there in their numbers, won't they? And as they always do. And yeah, it'll be. I think we might be a wee bit raucous because it is a night game.
Yeah.
And I think players like Engels will just take that in his stride, like he has done so far. But I think he'll enjoy that, won't he? He'll get to sample, as you say, that vocal and vociferous away support, which they're there in their numbers and they always are. And I'm actually looking forward to see how the team respond to that too, with those players in it. And Engels has played in a lot of decent stadia in Germany, and he's also sampled Celtic Park in a Champions League night, so nothing will phase him. He'll be, yeah, as I say, he just seems like a cool customer, doesn't he? And you're just looking forward to seeing more of him. He's got a big part to play in Celtic's future, but the immediate future, these 3 games coming up, he's got a huge part to play in them.
Yeah, we covered this yesterday. Paul just asking why it's an evening kickoff. Yeah, Paul, the reason it's an evening kickoff is it's been shown by Premier Sports this Saturday, not Sky Sports. I believe Premier Sports slot they have as the kind of evening one on a Saturday. So that's why the game is then. Looking forward to it, though. What are you guys writing about at the moment then? What's on your minds?
As much as Celtic, you don't want to take your eye off the ball. I think a lot of the writing will be going to the Borussia Dortmund game coming up a week yesterday. Actually, by this time next week, it'll all be over, which is quite crazy to think about. But yeah, I think there's a lot of excitement. Tony's writing a piece, not to steal his thunder or anything like that, but Tony's writing a piece this morning on how there's a bit of optimism going into a game against Borussia Dortmund at the Signal Iduna Park, which is crazy. I think about that a year ago, like even the thought of being of looking forward to that game, of being confident, of anticipating potentially getting a result in that stadium. People would be shocked a year ago, but now there seems to be this confidence, not just in the players, but in the manager. There's no, as I've spoke about in almost every podcast since the start of this season, there's no awkwardness anymore between the Celtic supporters and Brendan Rodgers. I think everybody's quite happy with where people are at the moment. Brendan Rodgers is back. He's winning trophies. Now we want to see him do well in Europe. So I think that's what the basis of Tony's article. I'll let you probably describe it in much better fashion than me, Tony.
I think you did a very good job. I'll speak to Hamish off here. I think as you say, 12 months. It's been 12 years since Celtic have made the Champions League knockout phase. Dirty dozen, if you want to call it.
12 years, wow.
Yeah, one of a better expression. And the list of the Hall of Shame reads like, who are they of European football that Celtic have lost to? So we all know those games. But I just think that sea change and the optimism that we feel going into this one now, I just think we're as best prepared as we can be. And you hear the likes of Arne Engels saying we're not scared of the yellow wall and all that. It just makes you puff your chest out. You're giving it a bit of yes, come on. And it's been a long, long time since Celtic have felt like that about any other teams in Europe. It really has. And that's the importance of that Champions League phase match day 1 win, Hamish. We spoke about that, how we would feel. And that kind of feel-good factor that's coursing through everybody, the manager, the players, the fans. Everybody seems to be on the same page. Everybody knows their job when they play minutes in that team. And I think the optimism, normally you would sort of turn around and say, wait a minute, optimism is misplaced. But in this case, I don't think it is. And you look at both Celtic's Champions League opponents, their recent results, that gives you even more cause for optimism.
Yeah, I'm definitely looking forward. I'm looking forward to every game. Any chance to see the Celtic team at the moment. St Johnstone on Saturday. Can't wait for that one. Obviously, Seamus is talking about one game at a time, and 7 minutes in, I'm surprised it took that long for one of you to comment and remind us that. I just think it is interesting to kind of look at what's coming up, and obviously it is that Borussia Dortmund one that really excites you, and excite is the word I would go for. Look, we might lose that game. There's a chance that happens, a fair chance, because we're up against a really good side. But I think generally at the moment, saying how I feel, I just can't wait to see Celtic compete at that level, and I feel like I've got a bit of confidence in the team going to the runners up from last year, which again is a thing you maybe wouldn't have said very often about Celtic, but I seriously think this is a really good Celtic team we're witnessing. Pace, they've got real pace in the team that we've not had for a while. I think there's power there as well. Guys like Arne Engels, big guys. There's a lot of kind of height in the team as well, it feels like to me, and it wasn't necessarily there before. So yeah, I just can't wait for all of these games to come, and I think we've got a fair chance of doing something in Dortmund. The one thing I would say, and Plunge is bringing up the injuries, and I want to hear from Brendan Rodgers what the story is with mainly Cameron Carter-Vickers, but also Alistair Johnson. Sounds like those two have their issues at the moment. I think they've both been having injections in recent weeks, and that never sounds good as a fan, does it? If players are needing injections to get swelling down so they can play in certain matches. And obviously Carter-Vickers and Johnson are both so important for us. So I want to hear from Rodgers on Friday, what's the situation there, with Saturday in mind, but also Tuesday in mind as well, because the thought of going to Dortmund without Carter-Vickers and Alistair Johnson, that would fill me with a bit more fear, if I'm honest. So it's going to be interesting to see what's up with those two.
Definitely, it would fill me with dread, if I'm being perfectly honest, without having those two main. They're the main components, in my opinion, of the defence. I know Scales has been great. Greg Taylor's also been great as well. So maybe I don't want to downplay their achievements actually, but those two, when I think of the defence and the outstanding players in that defence, I think of Johnson and Carter-Vickers. just due to the quality that they've got and the fact that they've shown it before. Maybe not so much in Europe for Alistair Johnson, but what he's been shown domestically. But by all accounts, it sounds as if Brendan Rodgers has said that he'll be fine for that game and he'll be fine for the weekend as well, which is good news. He's one of the first names on the team sheet. The same for Carter Vickers if he is fit. You need these players for Dortmund. It's going to be a difficult game. I don't. Celtic will get chances in the Signal Iduna Park, but they need to be resolute defensively as well because Dortmund have got really really good attacking players. I know they get beat 5-1, but they've got a really good striker up front right now in Garassi that played really well for Stuttgart last season that knows where the goal is. And they've got other players, Adeyemi, etc. So you need these top players in to deal with other top players that you're going to come up against. And I think Celtic can get a result in Germany. It's weird to say that, but I just feel confidence with this team that something special could happen if everything goes right. A couple of things have to go right on both sides, to be honest. Celtic have to play really well. Borussia Dortmund maybe need to have an off night on the night, or maybe struggle to take their chances, fail to take their chances, and don't score as many goals as what you would expect them to at home. But this team, it's optimism at the moment. I don't know if it's misplaced optimism, but I'm feeling optimistic about the way that this. I know I've watched them this season. I've watched them against Chelsea, against Manchester City, two teams that are in good form. I know that was pre-season, but you've got to use that as a blueprint for Europe. If they can play like that, like they did against Manchester City and Chelsea in Europe, and hit teams on the counter, soak up pressure, and give the ball to Kuhn and Maeda on the wings, try and get the ball to Kyogo up front, then who knows? They could give these teams a bloody nose, both Atalanta and Borussia Dortmund. As much as I think they'd both be bonuses if you get anything from those games. There are games to be had, and there's games to be got out there, and I think it's high time that Celtic actually make a bit of an impact in Europe. Is basically what I'm trying to say. Long story short,
Tony Smell the glove is worried that Rodgers is going to go with Stephen Welsh if Carter Vickers is out. I feel like it would be Trusty and Scales would be the defence. Yeah. The only thing that may counter that is that both of them are left-sided. Steve was saying if we have to put our trust in Trusty, he's good with that.
Yeah, I think at this moment in time, if there's any problems with Cameron Carter-Vickers and Alistair Johnson, you wrap them in cotton wool until Tuesday. Give them every chance to make Tuesday. You don't even risk them against St Johnstone. Ryan was saying there's every suggestion that Alistair Johnson will be fit for both games. Any slight doubt, any percentage, just say, right, no, we need you for Tuesday night. Tuesday night is imperative. I don't have a problem with if it's Trusty and Scales, if Cameron Carter-Vickers is ruled out. Welsh, I think everybody would be a wee bit worried if it was Welsh. And I think that's why Trusty got some minutes on Sunday. So, yeah, against Falkirk, and he might even see more minutes. And he'll probably see more minutes against St Johnstone, won't he? Because Cameron Carter-Vickers ain't going to play in that one, is he? So,
don't think so.
Yeah. So, as I say, I'm not particularly perturbed about the two of them being left-sided. You just go and do the job. You know what I mean? It might be a wee bit awkward, but you can play the position, right? You're centre back, so just do what you're told and, follow instructions, basically. You can do that, you know what I mean? So, but I think I would want it to be Trusty and Scales. I think your heart would be in your mouth if it was Welsh and Scales for Dortmund. So, and I think that's why the man at 6 million was bought. He was bought for these kind of games, so he has to play in these kind of games. And then you take your chance, don't you? But I still think that there's enough confidence there, and lots of things would need to happen. And we know we're facing last year's Champions League runners-up, but I think Celtic can go there and prove that they're as good a team as Borussia Dortmund, and I think we've all got confidence in the players and the manager to come up with a game plan to do that.
I think especially when you see that Dortmund had quite a bad result of the weekend. Stuttgart put 5 past them, and Stuttgart in their own right are a good team, and they're in the Champions League, and they ran Real Madrid pretty close last week. But when you see any team that isn't Bayern Munich or Bayer Leverkusen scoring 5 against Dortmund, it kind of fills you with a little bit of excitement because you think, would Celtic be a similar level team to Stuttgart? I'd say relatively so. I know Stuttgart were at home, but it certainly suggests that if we can get it right, and we're obviously scoring goals for fun, and well done, Ryan, on your, was it 10 goals you said? I think we got 13 in the end, didn't we, over the 12?
12.
12 over the 3 matches. Very good prediction. But it fills you with positivity. A few comments. AJ, if we play our strengths, 100% concentration, keep the back door shut, we can get a result in Germany. I'm confident we can get a 2-1 win. Steve reckons we should keep Carter Vickers for Dortmund, bring back Trusty for Ross County after that, and then hopefully Carter Vickers will recover fully after the international break. Have we got time for Arne Engels chat? He's not done anything over the past 24 hours, but I think we can discuss Arne Engels a bit because Mark has been in the super chat saying, can he stop thinking about Engels? He's too cool. Is Arne Engels the best player in Scotland already? There you go. I should have opened with that question. What do you think, Ryan?
Depends. Between Nicholas Kuhn, maybe at the moment, I would say. Yeah. I just think it's a bit of a blanket one. Whoever's the best player for Celtic at the moment, I think automatically becomes the best player in Scotland. Now, I know that wasn't official last season, inexplicably, because Lauren Shankland won Player of the Season, despite Matt O'Reilly getting double digits in goals and assists. Not just that, but his actual overall play. Dare I say that Celtic may have upgraded already in that position by bringing in a player like Arne Engels? You get what you pay for with players, and it is a big statement, but he's a guy that's played in the Bundesliga. He's played at a higher level than Matt O'Reilly did when he joined Celtic. Not slating O'Reilly whatsoever, because I absolutely loved him as a professional, as an individual as well, dealing with press conferences. But there seems to be a bit of prestige with Engels at the moment. When he plays, when he came on, he was only on for half an hour against Falkirk, but instantly the tempo increased because he was on the park. The standards were raised. That's the sort of player that £11 million gets you. And that's the reason why I think we've all been calling for Celtic to really push the boat out with signings like these, because they instantly improve the team, not just because they're in the team, but because they're actually pushing on the other players to improve too, having a good individual like that in the squad. There was no excuse for Celtic not to go out and buy a good player with the money that they were getting for Matt O'Reilly. It just turns out they got... I think I may have cut off there.
He's frozen. You take it away, Tony.
I think we'll need a bigger sample size for Arne Engels before we start pushing any kind of best player in Scotland narrative. For me, the best player in Scotland is Callum McGregor, and has been for many, many years. Just judging from the eye test, as I like to call it. But he's certainly made a positive start, hasn't he? And he exudes calmness and he exudes coolness, and he, as Ryan said, he affected that game. That his ball through for Kuhn was just exquisite. To send Kuhn racing through, and that's exactly why Celtic paid that money for him. Rodgers craved that player. He's got him in. He's making his mark, and I think the early signs are really, really positive, aren't they? And you just want to see more and more of them. And I think that Tuesday night's a great litmus test for him, because these are the games where judgments are formed, snap judgments or not, but you can start to form judgments on these. And if he can step up to the plate in an arena that he's very familiar with, you hasten to add, he's played there. It's nothing new to him. And again, going by his nature, this guy will take it in his stride. It'll be like just another game to him. And we know the importance of it, and we're all excited by it. But I think that's a wonderful thing that Arne Engels has been there, seen it and done it, and played for Augsburg. I think he made his debut in a 4-3 loss, didn't he? He said, he mentioned that,
wasn't there overnight?
He mentioned that. So I'm very excited as to what Arne Engels brings to the table. I just slow the buffs on best player in the country and all that at this minute in time. I just want to let him settle in and do his thing, and the plaudits will come. They're coming already. You know what I mean? So I I would just temper that talk at the minute, but we know fine well this guy's class, and he's got real potential to just be an absolute star.
Right?
Yeah, completely agreeing. Sorry for cutting off halfway through there. My internet is really not great this morning for whatever reason, so I'm on my hotspot. So it kind of goes up and down with the internet at the moment. I'm the fact that we can even discuss that, and the fact that we're even kind of half saying that he is the best player in Scotland, and he's not even fully settled in yet. He's played 3 games. Shows you that it was a worthwhile investment already. What is this player going to be like in October, November time once Celtic are in the thick of it, once they're fighting in the Champions League proper? You know, they've got 4 or 5 games in it. Maybe he's been Celtic's best player for all of those games put together, and this is just his level. This is what happens when you bring in a player that has been playing in a top 5 league, arguably the second or third best league in the world. Pick or choose between that and La Liga for the Bundesliga. But yeah, it's just such a great level to be playing at, and he will have learned so much playing against top quality opposition. Because you get Bayern Munich, Borussia Dortmund, RB Leipzig, Stuttgart as well in recent years, and lots of different teams. Bayer Leverkusen, of course. So playing against these teams, he could have only improved his overall game. And you're starting to see that. It almost feels that I don't want to call him like a cheat code or that or anything, but it feels as if you're bringing in a better quality player into that team that's played at a higher level, and then you're just bringing him back a wee bit as if, right, you're just going to dominate this game, you're going to dominate this league, and it's really I hope that he sees this move as a sort of like showcase of his abilities, because he might have got lost in the pack in the Bundesliga. There's loads of youngsters over there every season that are coming through. All of a sudden, the spotlight's on him in Scotland. There'll be a lot of eyes, a lot of Belgian eyes, a lot of German eyes, and teams from England, etc., watching this player, specifically him. And it's up to him to show that he is the best player, because you know he was the record transfer. And so far, 3 games in every single performance so far, he has shown that he is the best player right now at present. And long may that continue. It's already looking like a good bit of business for Celtic, and you're just hoping that you can keep that going.
Yeah. Just moving it on, St Johnstone on Saturday, guys. Managerless at the moment. They've got, I forget the guy's name. I think they got the assistant in charge for
Andy Kirk.
Andy Kirk. I think that rings a bell. I think they were close to beating Ross County at the weekend, 3-1 up with 10 minutes to go, and conceded an 87th and a 97th minute goal to only get a point from that game. Obviously, prior to that, they'd really struggled and lost 4 in a row, including in the cup, which left Craig Levein jobless. So, what are we expecting for St Johnstone on Saturday, Tony?
I'm expecting them to recruit a manager before Saturday to see if they can get that new manager bounce. Yeah.
Okay. What's the chance Scott Brown could be in the running?
Scott Brown, I believe Scott Brown's willing to talk to them.
Oh, is that be exclusive?
No. I think I read it on. We're all over kind of everything, but I think he said he would be willing to. It's out there that he would be willing to meet with them and talk about it. So, and he's had a very good start to his managerial career at Ayr. As Scott Brown, so he's clearly got something, you know. So, and yeah, imagine facing the captain, leader, legend in the other dugout. But he has been in the kind of other dugout before. He was assistant manager at Aberdeen, wasn't he, when Celtic played them? So it's not exactly, it's not new. Yeah. So it wouldn't be exactly new, but it would just be weird, wouldn't it, to see him go head to head with Brendan Rodgers in the technical area on Saturday evening. But you know, I think I was going to say Falkirk there, I was thinking of Sunday. I think St Johnstone's need to get a manager in, pretty quickly, because they've had a terrible start to the season, haven't they? So they'll need somebody to go in and try and address that slide. You would hope further along that would be Scott Brown, and he would be the man to do that, but certainly not on Saturday night. And if he is the man and that's who they want, so be it. But I think a club like St Johnstone could do a lot worse than maybe recruiting somebody like Scott Brown. He's a young, up-and-coming manager, and I think lots of people, underestimate him. in that sense, what he brings to the table in terms. But whenever you speak to him, and he talks football, he's a lot more intelligent than people give him credit for. I'll tell you that.
Yeah,
And I think as well that he's young enough to still be able to carry that gravitas and get through to the players because he's recently stopped playing. And I think players respond to that. This guy's won everything in the domestic game in Scotland, and he's played against top level opposition in Europe. So people migrate towards that, and I think he'd probably be a good fit for St Johnstone. But he's doing very well at Ayr. You know what to say. Sometimes the grass isn't greener elsewhere,
yeah,
but it's a decision that will lie between St Johnstone and Scott Brown. But ultimately, it's a top flight job, and if you can be as successful there, then it might be the kind of stepping stone for him to get his managerial career back on track. When it took a wee hit at Fleetwood, didn't it?
yeah. I'm delighted to see him doing well. I think it's a good point you make, Scott Brown, because he's kind of got a foot in both worlds, the old
Yeah,
managerial world, because when he started playing, he would have played under what Gordon Strachan and Neil Lennon, I guess, and other guys of that ilk, and he was
And
very much.
Brendan. So
Yeah, but also he's
yeah,
kind of been at the tail end of stuff, and he'll be familiar with how football's changed. So that's why I think he's such an interesting manager, and I'm really glad that he's doing well at Ayr United this year because the Fleetwood stuff started well, and I think we were all very keen in keeping an eye on Fleetwood for that season he was there. I remember watching an FA Cup replay. They played against Vincent Kompany's Burnley. That's how kind of into Fleetwood I was, and I really wanted to see what Scott Brown, the manager, was like because we obviously all absolutely loved him. Then he lost his job at Fleetwood, and he's gone to Ayr United. And last season it was kind of not great at Ayr, was it? Obviously, it came in halfway through the season, but I've got some family and friends that are Ayr fans, and they are absolutely raving about Ayr United this season. They say it's the best Ayr United have played, in forever, basically, and they go along and they actually enjoy watching Ayr United, and they've got that new stand that they opened in the friendly against us, and it just feels like a good place. So, a club that are going places. So it'll be interesting to see if he does, if he is interested by the St Johnstone job, because they don't appear to be a club going places. But what you would say is Falkirk are also a club going places based off the weekend. So Ayr and Falkirk seems like a pretty close battle to get up, and obviously that's quite an open league. But delighted to see Scott Brown doing well, and yeah, it'll be interesting to see if he takes that job. Fine.
yeah. I think this is stick or twist for Scott Brown, if I'm being honest, because the way that I look at Hibs as well, they are. David Gray's on a bit of a sugary peg, not the greatest start to the season. I think he would be earmarking that job as potentially one to go into. I could see Scott Brown being the manager of Hibs. That makes sense in my head. He started his career at Hibs, made his name there before joining Celtic. It's all about progression for him, and Ayr United give him a great chance, a great opportunity, and he needs to think about, is it worth staying at Ayr? They've got this fight against Falkirk. I think Falkirk are going to be title contenders. They've won every game that they've played so far this season in the league. You've seen how good they were at the weekend. That's going to be interesting. Although there's more than two teams fighting for that title, it's a really interesting league, the Championship, at this moment in time. But St Johnstone, does he go for it now? And then he potentially goes into a club that's going to be facing relegation, and it's not the best side. There's disciplinary issues at St Johnstone as well. If you look at the amount of red cards they've had already this season, is Scott Brown the best person to go in and try and get the discipline sorted at St Johnstone? I'm sure he's a lot calmer than what he was as a player. Although to be fair, he did mellow a bit towards the end of his career, and he was good at watching out for yellow cards. That was something that I was quite
Yeah.
impressed with him in the latter stages. Something that Brendan Rodgers probably helped him with as well, in terms of controlling his energy and controlling his emotions on the pitch. So, I mean, St Johnstone would be a good job for him, be a good step for him. It's a Premiership team. They've got a new owner as well, although I know he's kind of stepped back because he's getting treatment for cancer at the moment. So they're a team that are changing things at the moment, maybe a team that are potentially on the up, maybe not on the pitch, but off the pitch. I think it'd be a good move for him, but it's one of those ones, does he stick or twist and maybe wait for that Hibs job to come around? Because, if history tells you anything, there will be a vacancy at Hibs at some point in the medium term future. That's just the way that they operate, and that's something that you've got to look at. But it's also something he's got to look at as well, because is he going to get that time at a team like Hibs? Obviously, I'm just speculating at the moment, but if you're getting linked with jobs, with vacant jobs, it means that you're doing a good job somewhere else.
Good stuff. So, any other thoughts on Saturday evening? Then any different? The pitch is always a difficulty, but you'd assume it'd be all right. I can't claim to have seen any St Johnstone highlights recently, so I don't know what the pitch at McDermott is like.
It's been good, Nick. This early in the season, just
It's a big statement, Tony. It's a big statement.
It should be, shouldn't it?
Should be.
We're 5 games into the season. It should be all right. If it's cut up dreadfully, then clear. But I still think I don't think that'll be an issue for Celtic. I still think they'll be able to get the ball down and play and cut a swathe through them, no problem. Take advantage of the fact that they are where they are. Celtic are where they are. So you just got to go there and impose your game and and get another win on the board.
That's your embodiment of the horses for courses argument, Tony. I'd be starting either against St Johnstone purely because of the pitch as well. You want a wee bit of chaos up front, and I think he'll bring that. Also, the physicality of St Johnstone as well. Sometimes I think you're better combating it with a smaller player like Kyogo, who fight fire with water with Kyogo. They probably wouldn't want to come up against a smaller attacker, but Ida, I think he's in good form at the moment. I would give him that chance. I would let Kyogo come off the bench and then maybe start against Borussia Dortmund. But lay down the gauntlet to Adam Ida and say, right, if you get a couple of goals, you could be potentially leading the line against Borussia Dortmund. It's an exciting position to be in where there's actually two really good strikers vying for that one spot at Celtic, and it should bring out the best in each other.
Yeah, everybody remembers the Giacomakis goal as well at McDermott Park, don't they? The late one.
Mm-hmm.
And it took
McCarthy, Bernabei.
Yeah. So I always think McDermott Park's that kind of game.
Yeah.
And that horses for courses. So in my head, anyway, I was starting Ida on Saturday night. Ida stays in my team. For Dortmund, I think it might be a bit different. I'd maybe play Kyogo because I want a bit more in terms of Dortmund. Yeah. I think Kyogo's clever enough to handle that. He's been over the course of this 4. He can score goals, he can hold it and link it up. Well, that's just my thought process. Don't know what the manager's thought process will be in that, but I'd certainly I'd start Adam Ida on Saturday night and Kyogo starts on Tuesday for me.
I would start Ida Saturday and the following Sunday against Ross County.
Yeah.
I would start Kyogo against Dortmund. I think the pace away to Dortmund is going to be crucial because they are clearly going to leave gaps, and it's a big pitch that Signal Iduna Park. So I fancy the pace in behind. And equally, I think Adam Ida's deserved, a chance to start a few matches as well. So I think it's a great place to be in. Prior to Ida coming and us knowing about Ida, it would just be, Kyogo's going to play all 3 games, because we didn't feel the same way about Kyungyu. None of us would have been saying, should start any of these games, I don't think. So delighted that we've got options now and can't wait for it. Brown Warrior saying the pace will come for Kun and Maida. I want a third bit of pace. I'm greedy, Brown Warrior. Why not have 3 players who are absolutely flying up the top end of the park? Anything else, guys, before we head off?
I'm just enjoying. I'm enjoying the calm before the impending storm. To be honest, as I said at the start of this briefing, I think it's good to sort of take stock on what's been a tremendous start to the season in all competitions for Celtic. You've got to enjoy these 3 weeks while they come, while they're here, because there's not a lot of them between now and Christmas and after that as well. So it's a good time to take stock and really bask in the fact that Celtic have had such a tremendous start to the season. You look at that compared to last season, the fact that they were dropping points in silly games. Now we are moaning about Celtic conceding goals, just conceding 1 or 2 goals a game. That's how nitpicky it is, because it's been so good at the start of the season. So it's a great position to be in. I think everybody's delighted with the way that things are going, delighted with the signings, maybe looking for a bit better against Falkirk last week, but at the same time they got the job done. They scored 5 goals. And now we're just looking forward. It's a really good place to be in at the moment, and long may that continue.
Okay, thanks everyone. Thanks for tuning in and commenting. Always enjoy hearing what you've got to say. So much appreciated. And yeah, we'll return tomorrow. We'll be a day closer to the weekend, and there'll be no doubt plenty to chat about. So chat